Howdy, I'm Austin Larson, and this is the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of the program. Hope everyone's staying safe and healthy out there. Cases of COVID-19 are still on the rise here in Spokane County, but I know that Umatilla County was rolled back to Phase 1 due to their insane amount of COVID cases, so sending lots of love and support to all my folks down there. This is the follow-up episode where I'm doing follow-up interviews with some of my more memorable guests from the first few episodes of the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast. For this episode, I was fortunate enough to get some awesome interviews with my friends Emily, Bryson, Spidey, and Jackie. Let's go ahead and see what Jackie's been up to.
You're listening to the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast.
Jackie, thank you for rejoining us. Really, thank you for making time for this. I know that these are always so difficult to schedule because you're like, what, 16 and a half hours ahead of me?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, time zones are weird.
Seriously, like, I can't believe it's like, what, 9 a.m. on Thursday, July 30th right now for you, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That's so nuts. It's almost 4:30 p.m., July 29th, Wednesday for me, so that's...
It's weird.
I feel like I should be at work right now, to be honest, you know?
Yeah.
We had you on the band tattoos episode first, and then later the vacation tattoos episode. Both of those were in January, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's been a while.
Yeah, a little bit. So how have you been since then?
Yeah, good. It's been a bit crazy.
Yeah. The entire world. So have you personally been affected by the coronavirus pandemic?
I lost my job in March, but it was only for like 3 weeks. So I don't feel like it was such a big deal because we had like a government incentive called JobKeeper, which is basically where my work pays my wages. So it's been crazy, but kind of not too bad.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's really cool. Okay. But you were only out of work for 3 weeks, so that's good. Was there ever any sort of big, government mandated shutdown, anything like that going on?
We had all our restaurants and pubs and stuff close. So we only had to do takeaway. So we couldn't actually dine in anywhere. There was shopping centers where like clothing stores and stuff shut down, but it wasn't on the scale of like overseas like you guys did.
Okay, yeah, because when we shut down, I mean, it was like hard and fast. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think you guys it was like mandatory to wear gloves and masks and stuff there, was it?
Yeah, well, so still for a lot of parts of the country, like masks are, they're actually kind of a hot button political issue right now. As strange as I never thought I'd be saying that, yeah. Wearing a mask, it's just so bizarre to me because people refer to it as a right, but there's nothing in the Constitution that specifically says shopping without wearing a facial covering. I mean, that's not addressed at all, you know?
Yeah, as you really don't expect it to be, really.
Seriously, it's But yeah, since I last interviewed in January, have you gotten any new tattoos?
Yeah, I've got my knee done now, and I got one on my leg to cover a spot there, which was kind of music related because it's a cassette tape. So, yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Music related.
I guess, did you guys ever have trouble, like, getting tattoos? I know I just asked about the shutdown, but, like, barbershops, salons, tattoo parlors, were those kind of included with that?
Our hairdressers stayed open, but our tattoo shops shut down.
That's some bullshit.
That was... Yeah, I know. It was pretty... Yeah, I know a lot of studios here where I'm from in Darwin pretty much had to nearly declare bankruptcy. Like, there was a lot of them that were getting to the point where they were like, well, we can't open. Because the tattoo shops were the first to go and the last to come back on. So it was kind of a bit odd that they were like, well, you can't get a tattoo, but you can go and get your eyebrows plucked or whatever. Like, it didn't kind of make sense in the sort of hygiene scheme of it, because as you know, tattoo shops have to be like really really clean, so it's kind of like, well, how come I can go and get my teeth whitened and someone can breathe in my face but I can't get my leg tattooed? I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense, dude. You're right, because if you're getting your teeth whitened, you're breathing all over everywhere, and
yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute,
that's crazy.
I'd rather get a tattoo.
No, I mean, because so our barbershops, at least over here, our tattoo shops and our barbershops went away at the same time, came back at the same time as well, so My last haircut, I remember I had the back piece. I had that outlined, and I got a haircut the same week. That was back in May. And then, of course, once everything kind of reopened, I still haven't gotten a haircut, but I've had like 3 more sessions on my back. So I guess
I was gonna say I've seen you get more, so you got your priorities right.
I got my Thank you. I got my priorities straight. All right. So and you mentioned that you're living in Darwin, Australia, right now. So with everything going on in the U.S., just curious, from overseas, what's that kind of look like from an outsider's perspective?
Crazy. Like, it kind of just sounds like a bad YA novel. Like Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marston. It's kind of like you guys are living out that.
Oh my God, wow. Thank you.
It's so bizarre because, like, we've only got one state where you've got to wear masks, and that's in lockdown still, Victoria. So they're in lockdown, but the rest of us are just kind of wandering around going like, what's happening with America? Are they all right over there?
Because it's really, you're not getting a surge in cases or anything, right?
Only in Victoria. That's the only state. So there's no other. I don't think at the moment there's no other cases. I mean, there's none in my state, but like America just seems to be going back. So I don't understand.
We are seriously. That just hearing you say that sounds so bizarre to me. Like, how do you guys have none? Why can't we do what you're doing?
Yeah. And then I saw that yesterday with Trump and that alien DNA doctor.
Oh my God.
That kind of made me happy because I was like, I love a good conspiracy theory, but now your president kind of just stood up and was like, yo, guys. It kind of was like, is this real?
If it's endorsed by Trump, does that strengthen or does that deter from the credibility?
I think it kind of deters from the credibility because I love a good alien story, but when he said that, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's well, thank you. I mean, I've just been curious because sometimes it does feel like you're in a bit of an echo chamber. I mean, just hearing the perspective of someone who's watching it from the outside, like it's some, trash fire reality show.
Basically.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, on a happier note, though, we're going to talk a little bit about your clothing line. That's Coffin Club Apparel. So, how long have you been making clothing?
The first lot of shirts I did back in 2015, so it feels like forever ago.
No, that's a while. I feel that. How'd you get involved with it?
It just really started because I kind of wanted to wear something that I just wanted to wear. Like, especially in Darwin, I don't think off the top of my head there's any clothing lines based here. So it was kind of like everything has to be ordered in or mainstream stores like Valley Girl and Supre and all that sort of stuff. So I just kind of went, I don't like any of this. I want to put something I want to wear on a shirt. So I did, and that was it.
Hell yeah. No, I mean, you build it and they'll come,
Yeah, exactly.
So where'd the name Coffin Club come from?
I have a coffin tattoo on my finger. And that's what it started from. Because somebody, I don't even remember who, kind of went, Coffin Club when I got that tattoo. And for some reason, it just stayed in the back of my head. So when I was picking a name for my line, Coffin Club kept coming back up. And I was like, no, might as well. No,
that's dope as hell. I really like that. I have a headstone on my wrist. So like right when you said that, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Ah, that's cool.
Well, thank you. But yeah, and then you mentioned about losing your job for a little bit. So did the coronavirus pandemic have any sort of impact on the clothing specifically?
Yeah, the guy that I print directly from, like print the shirts for me, he's in Melbourne, so he's in lockdown. And like print on demand stores as well, they've got like a lot of issues, and we haven't been able to ship internationally until like only recently. Even Japan, you still can't ship out of Japan at the moment, so it's been kind of a bit crazy with that sort of side of it, just trying to get new material out.
Oh, damn. No, I mean, I guess that would definitely have a big impact on it, I guess. I was thinking more like the digital side of things, but I mean, it is very much a physical medium. So yeah, if you can't get things transported, oh my God, yeah, that would definitely fuck
obviously
your day up.
You have a lot more time to design shirts, but you can't do anything with the designs, so...
Well, hey, there's a silver lining there, right?
Yeah.
Well, now that you've been making shirts for right about half a decade, what's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew back when you first got started with Coffin Club?
You've got to know, like, do your research before because I just kind of drew a shirt in 2015, got someone to print it for me, and I had it in a skate shop for like 2-3 years, like a brick and mortar store, which I thought was like the coolest thing ever. But literally all I'd done was just chucked a design on a shirt, and like I didn't really put any thought into it. So like I kind of didn't put as much effort into it as I could have when it first started, just because I didn't know what I was doing. So research is definitely key in everything with this sort of area.
No, I completely understand. I mean, that is pretty fucking cool that you've sold shirts out of a brick and mortar shop, not gonna lie. But yeah, no, definitely knowing your research, and thank you. Appreciate that. Speaking of your clothing, so one of the designs available from Coffin Club Apparel right now is, it almost looks like a flash sheet. I really love it. It was a t-shirt that you drew up. It was a t-shirt you drew up to benefit the brush fires in Australia, right?
Yeah. In January, there were all these bushfires that like pretty much devastated the most of Australia, like pretty much the whole bottom half of Australia.
And you said, yeah, all the proceeds from those shirts are going to benefit like groups with that, right?
Yeah, the wildlife, because we've had 33 people lost their lives, and we've had like 5,000 people lose their homes, but the wildlife was affected, was like whole species were just nearly wiped out completely.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah, all our koalas.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Wow. Ugh. That's no good. Well, I'm glad you're raising money for a good cause. Thank you so much. So on that design, there was some text at the bottom. It says, "Fuck ScoMo." And so I had to Google that when I saw it, because I'm like, oh, Australians, you guys have a lot of very colorful slang that I love.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to look that up. And would you please go ahead and explain to the American listeners what "fuck ScoMo" means?
So Scott Morrison is our president, and as you know, we like to shorten everything. Like service station is just always servo, and that sort of thing. So Scott Morrison became ScoMo just because he's a bit of a ScoMo. Like he's just he's just lazy. So like shortening the word was perfect, because it's like the lazy way of saying a lazy man's name.
Well, hey, there you go. That is, and you know what? After everything we've said about Trump on this show, I figure it's probably good that, we get some other country's leader for a change.
Yeah, it's not just you. You're not alone.
Right? I don't discriminate.
Yeah.
All right. So where can we find Coffin Club online?
Coffin Club Apparel on Facebook and Instagram. It's just Coffin Club Apparel for all the socials.
Awesome. All right, Jackie. Real quickly before we go here, is there anyone you might want to give a shout out to who might be listening to the program?
Oh, my mom. I'm going to make her listen to this.
Please do. Thank you. Please do.
My mom's going to listen to it. I'm going to make her work.
Oh my God. Well, my nerves are shot now, so I can't fuck this up. Okay. Jackie, once again, thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us today. Thanks for supporting the program, and glad I could help you out today. I just bought my first T-shirt from you, so
yeah, thank you. It's been good being on again.
Oh, hey, of course, glad to have you back. Have a good one.
You too.
I still haven't gotten that haircut. Jackie, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're doing well. Always awesome to catch up. So I bought my shirt from coffinclubapparel.bigcartel.com. All of those prices are in Australian dollars. So I paid with my PayPal. It automatically converted it from Australian dollars into American dollars, and for the shirt and shipping it was like $25 American, which is still way cheaper than anything I've ever bought from Blackcraft. Really have to thank Australia as a whole, though. Aside from the US, Australia is the only country that's consistently streaming every episode of my show, even the Austin Talks Through the Movie episodes. So, thank you guys so much. My next guest is a guy I've known for a very long time, one of my best friends. Just a heads up, most of my guests are interviewed via Skype, so this was the first true phone interview I did. The sound isn't totally consistent, but here's Spidey York. Spidey, thank you so much for rejoining us today.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure.
Well, thanks again, man. All right, so you had your bonus interview back in January. That was the first introduction you had to this audience, and then we re-interviewed you in April as part of Austin Talks Through the Movie. We watched The Baby, right?
Yeah, that's a good flick.
It really is. So how many days of sobriety are you celebrating, man?
Shit, I don't know. It's a little than 3 months, I think.
You said about 3 months?
I'm not really keeping track. The way I see it, and this is just my personal feeling, everybody each their own. Why would I boast about something that I got myself into? It's a moot point to me.
No, I completely understand that, man. Thank you. So, just how have you been?
Well, I've been good. I mean, no real complaints. Of course, I want $1 million, but who doesn't?
No, I completely understand that. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say no to $1 million. So, have you been personally affected by the coronavirus?
Can't say I have. I know it kind of sucks staying inside, but then again, I think if there wasn't the whole social distancing and staying indoors as much as possible, I think I wouldn't have the want to really go out and socialize anyway, so...
Completely hear you on that front, man. So the last time we heard from you, that was in early April, and even then, that episode was on kind of a delay. Since we've recorded that episode, you did have to go back to jail for a little bit, right?
Yeah, when I got out of jail in December, I was supposed to do a 6-month stint, but I only wound up doing about 3.5. But I'm going and checking in and getting registered with probation like I was supposed to. I just kind of blew that off, started right back at using, and wound up absconding for 4.5 months. One day, some shit went down out of Lick, and a cop rolled up on. I tried giving this one officer a fake name, and he was buying it. And then this other cop rolled up, and he knew me, and so he knew that there was a warrant out too. And I was arrested, and they revoked me for 6 months. But my public pretender got him 30 days, so I had to do 30 days, and after that, I've just been kind of straight.
Wow, your public pretender got you from 6 months down to 30 days?
Yeah, he's a small little Jewish guy. Best lawyer I've ever had.
Wow, I've never heard of a public pretender doing that, so holy shit, that's awesome.
That is.
Better than the guy who never washed his hands?
Way better.
Damn, wow, that says something about him. So after you were in jail for a month, how was that visit compared to the previous stay, the one from December?
Well, I didn't go up the ranking ladder in jail. You start off in maximum security, and then after 2 weeks of good behavior and following all the rules, you get reclassed down to medium security, and then after that you can reclass down to low security. I didn't do any of that. I just stayed in the maximum security dorm house the entire time, and honestly, it wasn't any different from the last stay in jail. It sucked, and it wasn't fun, but it wasn't bad either. It just kind of was.
Que sera, sera. Did you see anyone this time around that you saw in there the first time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to have a good old reunion with all the buddies.
There you go. Well, I mean, the first trip was, I guess not the first, but the stint that we talked about back in January. I mean, that was a big high school reunion, so that was kind of more of the same?
Yep, pretty much. And
you did kind of mention that now you're on, active probation. What's that look like for you?
It's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. My PO doesn't seem to be too worried about me all the time. I take one drug test a month. And, I go up to my grandparents' cabin and I let them know when I'm, going up there and back in town. And if I get a response from him, that's something special, because he doesn't even typically let him know, so.
Wow, damn. Well, I mean, but hey, good for, I'm glad and still have the cabin.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can to expand it, too.
Oh, shit, seriously? How big?
Yeah, they're not doing anything to the manufactured house that they got up here now, but Grandpa's got a big old shop. He's got a pump house. He's got a tool shed and a travel trailer. It's still an acre, but it's definitely come to life. Well,
shit. I mean, if ever needs an extra set of hands out there, just send them my way, okay?
Will do.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, in the spirit, we're talking about, encounters with the law, something you and I both followed religiously in high school, early adulthood, kind of that period of our lives right there. So the original To Catch a Predator investigations that were on Dateline NBC kind of resurfaced and got a second wave of popularity on YouTube. We watched countless hours of those back in the day. So who was your favorite Predator from that show?
Oh, God. Brian Gosling. I don't have a last name.
Oh, my God. I think probably him. How about Jeff Stacy? You remember him?
Oh, is he a guy who can't talk like this? It's a question.
Or you remember Dan Allen from California? You know, I'm gonna shove that camera down your throat.
Yep. And to be honest with you, I still watch countless hours of that shit on YouTube. That's like my show that I follow. Well, I can't really say release it. There's no new episodes out, but I rewatch and it never gets old.
Well, it's funny you say no new episodes. So have you seen any of Hansen vs. Predator?
No, I didn't even know that was a thing.
When you have the opportunity, look up Hansen vs. Predator on YouTube, because they brought it back like 2 years ago.
Oh my God, I've been in that long.
It's pretty wonderful. Okay, sorry, and then real quickly here, on a more serious note, the recent political state in the country is definitely, the coronavirus pandemic, everything being shut down, that hasn't helped in this country, but earlier this year, the police killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd have both, definitely, they've sparked, a national outcry, protests, people are demanding police reform, police accountability, police oversight. Just, Spidey, in your experience, do you feel that any of your police encounters, especially the one that we talked about in your first interview, where you dragged that police, for those of you who aren't up to speed, Spidey's interview in January, he was finishing a sentence after you dragged a peace officer with your car, right?
Yes.
So, if you weren't white and you dragged that cop down the side of the highway, do you think the outcome would have been different?
I don't think I would have gotten off as easy as I did. I think there's a good chance I could have wound up getting shot. I actually agree with what's going on. I think that there does need to be something that happens with the police department, because I think it's gotten a little out of hand. And, Black lives do matter, and it's not this whole... It has a stigma where, people are saying, well, black people are trying to make it to where, they're superior and that, it's only them that matters, and that's not the case. All lives matter, but in order for all lives to matter, black lives have to matter too. And judging by history and recent events, there's an obvious, there's an obvious act of favoritism going on between whites and blacks.
No, most definitely. There is a history of systemic racism in this country and others.
Yes.
All right. Spidey, thank you again so much. Real quickly, is there anyone listening to the program you might want to shout out?
Hi, Mom.
Oh my God. Spidey, you've been one of my closest friends for the past 9 years. We have been through hell and back together, man. I love you, man. Just the fact that I've gotten to know you and know you for this long, and not only you, but your family too. It's means the world to me, man. Thank you so much for reappearing on my show today.
Well, it's definitely been a blessing, and you're the bestie for life, and your mom is really hot, so a shout out to her too.
Oui, c'est famille. People are always asking me how I got the show onto Spotify, or how I got the show onto Apple Podcasts, or how I was able to get a custom web page for the show. The truth is, I just let Buzzsprout handle all of that for me. Buzzsprout is so straightforward and user-friendly, it's no wonder they've already helped over 100,000 podcasters worldwide. With free and paid subscription plans, you can get your podcast out there and still afford to get tattoos. All you need is a way to record and edit audio files. My link is in the description. If you use my link for a paid plan, not only are you getting access to a boatload of sweet discounts and perks, but they'll even send you a $20 Amazon card. So what are you waiting for? Get the podcast out of your head and into their ears with Buzzsprout. Spidey, thank you so much for your words of wisdom, dude. I'm so glad you're still here with us, so glad you're doing well. Really happy I got to grow up around your family. Seriously, your grandparents, your mom, your stepdad, your sister, just all absolutely amazing people, and I'm so glad that I got to meet them. Thank you. I mentioned earlier that this was my first true phone interview, and Spidey was out in rural County, so his cell service wasn't all that great. But somehow we got it together and all the good stuff was still there. Kind of a side note, August 1st of this year was actually the 5-year anniversary of Spidey's accident.
I broke damn near every bone in my body, including shattering my pelvis completely, cracked my skull open, and sustained a diffused axonal brain injury, which is one of the deadliest forms of brain injury one can sustain. I had to have my spleen removed because it was turned into hamburger. I also lacerated my liver and the kidney on the right hand side of my body, and still do have a bunch of nerve damage throughout my left leg and left side of my body.
It was a super shitty weekend when it happened 5 years ago, but seeing Spidey still here with us and doing well always makes that week easier. But speaking of old friends, here's another friend that I've known pretty much longer than I haven't. Let's check in with Bryson. Bryson, thank you so much for rejoining us today. You were previously on the first Tattoos episode along with Sleepaway Camp. That was back in April. Since then, how have you been?
Doing as good as I can, like everyone else, trying to get through this crazy world with COVID and now the protests. Shit being right outside of Portland. It's been pretty crazy, but, I'm getting by.
Hey, well, that's good to hear, man. You're staying safe out there. So, just without saying like where exactly you live, how far outside of Portland do you live?
I'm about a 20-minute drive, 15 minutes on a good day.
Okay, wow, and that's okay. So that's pretty close. So this is really hitting close to home,
Oh yeah, especially with where I work. I'm even closer than where I live. Believe it or not, I actually saw some of those unmarked rigs going by my work a couple weeks ago, and it was some sketchy shit, man. It's like, is this really happening?
Holy shit, man. No, and that's terrifying. I recently I subscribed to the Washington Post just so I can keep up with these things. The world we're living in, it's some crazy times, man. Oh my God, that's very scary.
Oh, it is. Thankfully they weren't, going to the little town I work in, but, they were rolling through, coming from wherever to go meet up with the folks in Portland.
Scary, man. Let's see. So we talked about it a little bit back in April. So have you been personally affected by the coronavirus pandemic?
I actually have. Most recently, the whole 4th of July, it was, planned from, a couple months back to Erica and I, my significant other. We were going to go see her folks in McMinnville, and we weren't able to do that because we didn't want to, risk getting anyone sick. And my grandparents wanted to have a little barbecue, and I had to tell them that it wasn't a good idea because they're both very, very susceptible to this. And, I haven't been able to see my mom or stepdad. I've just been going to work and coming home. I might hit up a, grocery store on the way home, but that's been the most really exciting thing.
No, it's very responsible, but yeah, I completely understand that, we really can't do much of anything right now. But that being said, however, now that Oregon's been, kind of more reopened for a little bit, and when there was, I guess when things died off for a little bit, the calm before the storm, if you will, a lot of businesses reopened, that type of thing. So since the last time I've spoken with you on this show, have you gotten any more tattoos or any more work done?
Actually, yeah, but during that, as you said, calm before the storm, Eric and I had the opportunity to travel to go see my tattoo artist, Lauren, and I officially have a half sleeve now. Really, it's, I would say 3/4 sleeve at this point, loaded with color. it's super bright, and I'm in love with it. We would have gotten more done, but, the arm decided to swell a little bit. It is what it is, but 4.5 hours in the chair, it'll do that to you.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I completely understand that, especially because, you're full color. So, the fact that, like, every just pixel, or every atom of the skin, really, I don't know why I said pixel there, but, it's all colored in there. So, no, I can understand that. That would definitely take a toll on me. So, kudos to you, man. It looks fucking sick. I love it. I can't wait till it's a full sleeve.
Hey, thank you, man. I've been seeing what you're working on your back, and, I think that's just killer. I've never even thought about having a full back piece, and to see you, like, post one day, the first time you had I think it was just the line work.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. I got goosebumps just looking at it. And now that you have some color in it, ooh, I think it's going to look sick when it's done.
Hey, well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, speaking of tattoos, definitely, since we're both aficionados, definitely, so to speak, we grew up in the same community where, things like sunscreen were definitely looked at as less, masculine than just, being with nature, that type of thing. Before you started getting heavily tattooed, did you use sunscreen?
You know what? I did with the mom I grew up with. I mean, my mom still to this day burns, looks like a lobster after spending 10 minutes in the sun.
Ooh.
So, I mean, she used to, habitually when I was a kid, making sure I either, one, had the sunscreen or she would make sure I was putting it on in front of her. If I don't put sunscreen on the non-tattooed areas, I still get burned. So it's kind of a good thing my mom instilled in me.
Oh no, most definitely. My mom definitely encouraged me to use a lot of sunscreen as a kid, and for the most part I was pretty good, but I'll admit that in those early years when I wasn't heavily tattooed and I wasn't, just into tattoo culture, I guess I should say, basically, yeah, those years when I wasn't trying to get tattooed, but I was an adult, I wasn't using sunscreen. I was stupid. But now, now that I have so many tattoos and everything, when it's hot out and I know I'm going to be outside, I'm actually kind of anal about sunscreen. I'll reapply and reapply. I'm sure you understand.
Oh, I definitely do. Now that we're having this heat wave, I actually plan tomorrow to pick some up at the store because, working out an auto shop, I'm outside a decent portion. Talking with clients, helping them fix minor things in their cars. And I'm going to have to apply and apply and apply.
I completely hear you, man. That first piece you talked about with me, it was a Bugling Elk as a tribute to your dad. You got a lot of really positive feedback for that. I know someone actually heard you sharing on the show, and they kind of reached out to you. I thought that was really cool. You kind of mentioned earlier with all the Black Lives Matter protests and everything going on in Portland, we're living in a very tense political climate right now. And I don't like to make this show overly political, but just because you grew up the son of a police officer, and you grew up kind of in that household, in that environment. How do you feel about police reform in the United States right now?
I try to not think of, because my dad, he was such an amazing person, let alone a very respected police officer. I really feel almost biased to an extent when it comes to, cops are good, but I've had to make myself take a step back and realize that reform is needed to an extent, because there's nothing to, in my view, weed out potential police officers using these tactics that shouldn't be used. There's training, on how to act as a person to an extent as a police officer, but besides that, there's nothing else there. And I also see it as they can't get rid of someone's racist feelings just by sending them to a seminar. Sadly, it's still going to be there, and that just absolutely breaks my heart because I don't ever see it going away completely. But I feel like with more training, with just opening up a better mindset for these police officers, it could help, exponentially. But there has to be a lot done in order to do so.
Well, thank you for sharing, man. Really appreciate your views and inputs. On a different note, still kind of with the vein of public service, you yourself, you mentioned you work at an auto parts store, but you're kind of going to be looking to change careers here pretty soon. What's going on with that?
I actually, just as of yesterday, I shot you a text because, I wanted to tell some people. I actually just got accepted to the emergency medical service program at Portland Community College. I'm going to shoot for becoming an EMT first off, and the long-term goal is reach paramedic status. And if I buckle down, I can reach that here in a couple years, and being able to be out there and help people and be there for them on the worst day of their lives. It sounds like, the perfect job for me. I love helping people. I'm the person that sees someone struggling on the side of the road. If I don't stop then, I double back, make sure they're okay. It's just who I am and who I've always been, and it seems like the perfect calling for me.
No, definitely. When you first told me that, I was like, no, this makes sense. Especially for Bryson, for as long as I've known you, it feels like you're calling, man. No, so I'm really excited for that. Just curious, was there a catalyst?
When I first moved up here and was trying to find work, I got a job as a security officer at the casino, and I actually got it was a more than basic, but intermediate medical training. anything from small things like helping people, oh, I need a Band-Aid, to I actually got to perform CPR twice.
Oh, wow.
And that is what really sparked it for me, because I was there one time to help someone, and to watch that man walk back in and like see him as a guest and come up and shake my hand and say, hey, I heard you helped me. I mean, that just felt amazing, because I felt like I was part of the reason he was still there.
Damn.
But I also been on the other side, and the other time there was nothing we could do for this gentleman. Getting to be there to console his family and trying to help him on that side of things. I mean, it was really hard, but again, not to sound vulgar, but rewarding at the same time.
No, yeah.
Because I got to be there for them when there was no one else there for them. I didn't seek things right then and there because, I was taking care of my mom. I didn't have the opportunity to really go back to school. But now, living in my own place with Erica and having, her support me 100%, I finally feel like I have the system to be able to go back to school. And now everything's falling into place. And so, I mean, it's been, a little thought in the back of my head for the past 3 years, and I'm finally going for it.
Well, hell yeah, man. That is so fucking awesome to hear. And yeah, so you said the past 3 years. How do you feel to be back in school after, so how long were you out of school?
So I hit BMCC, that Blue Mountain Community College up in Pendleton, I took the summer off. So the fall term after we graduated, I took a few classes. I was like, I'm going to be a businessman, and I'm going to go for business administration, and completely hated it. I hated accounting. The intro to business was interesting, but I hated it. And I just hated everything about it. And I had some people in my life at that point that, weren't very supportive. And it just was something easier to step away from than pursue. When I first moved up here, I took a break between then. So that was 2014, around there, up until I moved here 3 years ago. So in like 2018, roughly a year after I was here, and I started dating Erica, I was in the whole wine industry, and I was like, I'm going to go back to school to be a winemaker. Well, sad, kind of had a reality check there, and was like, I don't know anyone in the wine industry besides Erica. That's a fun idea, but it's not realistic.
I hear that.
So, I mean, thinking about it since then, the whole paramedic, it made sense. It's realistic. I can get a job. I can support myself and Erica on it, and live comfortably and be happy doing what I'm doing. So
That's
I mean,
important.
It's checked all the boxes for me like nothing else has before.
Well, there you go, man. That's so awesome. Yeah, and I just remember for a little bit back when we were both at BMCC, because I also ended up taking some time off and finishing my degree later. We had a math class together. I think that was the first class that we had together after high school. And
yeah,
I just remember there were a couple times like we'd be having cigarettes out like after class, and it was weird just because I'd see you, I'm like, wait, you smoke cigarettes and you have tattoos? Aren't you supposed to be kind of like a mama's boy? And then you're all like, wait, you have tattoos and you smoke cigarettes? I thought you were a goody-goody. And it's like, oh, well.
I mean, it was like our first glimpse into, who we kind of were.
Yeah.
I mean, we
knew
each
back
other
then.
And, we were, acquaintances, becoming friends to an extent. And then, we kind of shared that mutual bond right there. And, we've been buds ever since.
Seriously, man. It's crazy how much you grow up after you grow up,
Oh, yeah.
Real quickly here. Before we go, is there anyone you might want to give a shout out to who might be listening to the program?
Well, like I have the past couple times, I'll give my girlfriend Erica a shout out. She's been my rock through this getting ready to go back to school. And I mean, before that, she always has been. And I know she'll continue to be. Give a shout out to my friend Tara, who I met through Erica. Hi, Tara. She listens to the podcast now, too.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
And really just shout out anyone who's listening to this. I mean, thank you for supporting Austin in this, venture he's on, because, he's going to go places with this. If it's not with the podcast, I mean, it's going to be a start to something big for him.
Dude, thank you so much. I mean, seriously, from day one, you've been one of the most vocal supporters of this program. I mean, growing up with you, all the fun times we had back at BMCC, and even kind of after that, before this show, I mean, it was a hell of a ride, man. I'm glad we both made it through on this side, because a lot of our friends didn't, so.
And that's true. Yeah, I feel thankful for, being where I am today, because there was there was a path I was going down that was not going to be leading me to where I am today. But, I shook that path and took another one, and, I don't regret it. So you're very welcome, man. I mean, I'm glad to be a supporter, and, I'm going to continue to be.
Means the world to me, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Congrats again, man. I'm so glad to hear that you're thriving, and not only that, but you're pursuing a career that's really going to fit you like a glove. Always good to hear from you and Erica. So glad that even with all the craziness going on in the world right now, you can still get tattooed. Bryson, thanks for not only being so supportive of the show, but thanks for turning so many people on to it, Word of mouth is something that people don't nearly think about enough. My final guest today has been a good friend of mine for several years, and I'm sure we have some fans in common. I really can't thank her enough for taking time out of her busy schedule to do this. I had the honor and privilege of once again interviewing Ms. Emily Wright. Emily, thank you so much for rejoining us on the program. Let's see, I previously interviewed you for the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoos #1 episode. That was back all the way in February. So far, to date, that's been the highest downloaded episode of the show so far, so big thanks to you for that. You definitely helped a lot.
Awesome. So glad.
Well, thanks again. So, how have you been?
Good.
Awesome.
I just got back to shooting this month, but it was pretty much from like March until now, everything was shut down. So, I mean, yeah, just trying to return to normal life stuff. Of course, the big companies aren't shooting yet, so it's, it's still slow, but some work's better than none, so.
No, completely understand that. I was about to ask what sort of impact the coronavirus, pandemic has had on the adult film industry. So, shooting was totally shut down for a while. Some companies are starting back up, but right now, some of the bigger ones aren't.
Yeah, right now they had a mandatory moratorium called from February until earlier this month, but now it's like a suggested moratorium, but some companies are still shooting right now, except for like the big companies. They haven't returned to shooting, which really sucks because those are the ones that I normally do most of my work through. Browsers, Reality Kings, all of those ones. So I got really hit hard with this one.
Ugh, definitely. I mean, everyone's suffering. I mean, I think I really don't know of an industry that wasn't touched by this whole thing. It's been nuts.
No, it's insane. Madness.
Seriously. Real quickly, so somewhat recently, a while back, I had a listener of the program reach out to me. He kind of recognized your name, and since you talked about your background in dance, we had someone asking if you've ever danced in the Seattle-Tacoma area. Your name sounded vaguely familiar.
Nope. That's like one of the few areas that I've actually never been to. Portland was there for a minute, a few different places there, but as far as I know of, most of the places I visited in Portland are even closed down, so.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, sorry, listener, you were mistaken. Just generally speaking, how much improvisation is there in porn?
It really depends. Like, I shot on Saturday a scene where it was like 90% improv. No, more like 99. And then some scenes will have like an exact script that you have to follow word by word by word. And you'll even have like I had a voiceover part, and I'd never done anything like that before until Blacked. Blacked actually did that. They'll stop you. I had to do the dang thing like 20 times because he kept stopping me, and he was like, no, I want it to sound more like this. And so like it just depends on the company. They might have like a script that's like 3 pages long, or they might have just like a theme and they just kind of tell you to go with it.
Oh, wow. So definitely the ability to kind of improvise and think on your feet is definitely a good thing in this industry, right?
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Do you kind of have a preference? Do you like a lot of like source material in a script to go off of, or do you kind of prefer just letting yourself find the performance?
It depends. I mean, Saturday it worked out super, super well not having a script. But then there are times when the shoot, you know, I just want to get a general sense of like, what is the vibe we're going for? What is the attitude I should have? Because nobody, like, for my shoplifter scene, they really told me, like, hey, here's the deal, here's the mood, you know, and just go for it. And I did just go for it. And they were like, well, that's not quite what we were going for. So I wasn't really happy with it at the end because I was like, well, you all didn't really tell me what you did want. So I kind of did my best with what I had, and it wasn't the right fit for what you guys wanted. So whose fault is that?
Seriously, you know, I mean, there's giving minimal direction and then there's being vague, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, if they're just like, hey, here's the deal, here's the scene, here's how we're getting into it, that's that. That's fair enough. That's like easy enough to set up, but yeah.
A little bit of a different topic here. What was shooting in VR like? I was kind of just referencing your body of work a little before this interview, and I noticed that you've actually done a couple scenes in VR. So what was shooting that like?
Oh my gosh. So the first time I ever did it, it was so bizarre because you just have these lenses in front of your face and they're like, you know, fisheye kind of lens.
Ooh.
So and I'm not going to give off too much about the setup because I know that the VR people I've worked with would rather keep that kind of private, but it's bizarre because it's kind of like you're looking at the camera essentially the whole time, which is usually the opposite. When you're shooting, you usually don't acknowledge the camera, but in VR, it's like completely to the camera, and you really have to just keep the energy flowing. And it's awkward not having the feedback from the other person to act with, you know, because usually when you're acting, it's like interaction between two people, but when you're doing VR, it's interaction between 1.5 person. And it's really strange because I just felt like I was talking to myself the whole time. This weekend, actually, I filmed some VR. I'm not allowed to say for who or for what, but it's big, and I did enjoy it a lot more. So I think maybe there's that learning curve of like, okay, this is a very strange process, but it can be fun too.
Have you ever shot any POV scenes?
Yes, I've shot a ton of POV stuff because I feel like, and this is substantiated by other people in the industry, that, you know, POV is for the tended preference of most of the porn audience because, well, as one of my coworkers put it, it's about the girl, not about the guy. And guys want to be able to put themselves in the place of the dude, and it's a lot easier when you're not looking at him, you know.
I'm a big fan of POV, so no, I completely understand that. Since you've been in the industry, who are some of your favorite people to work with?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have tons of favorites. I have more favorites than I don't have. It's so strange. I've never worked with a group of people that I just, you know, they were just chill and whatever. But so far, my favorite industry people, like of all time, directors, I want to say there's a tie for director. It's between Billy Visual and I can't see the other one yet because the scene hasn't come out yet, but
Fair
Billy
enough.
Visual is really great. He did my Brazzers scene and one of my Reality King scenes. Then to work with, as far as girls go, Skylar Snow is like the best of the best of the best. She's like my favorite on set and off set. There's only one girl I worked with that I didn't like, but I think Skylar Snow kind of takes the cake because she's kind of fantastic. And my favorite guy to work with so far has been Isaiah Maxwell because he's super professional, shows up to set, the scene always gets done in, you know, very timely fashion, and we all go home. So that's always really nice.
It's a job, you know? I mean, you like the people who show up, they're responsible, get their shit done, you know?
Yeah, it's hard for me to like really like someone that doesn't have respect for my time. They just show up and just bullshit or act like a diva on set. That really gets me.
Completely understandable. So, in the future, do you ever see yourself working behind the camera more in adult films?
You know, I honestly, like, I don't want to say that that's not at all a possibility because I'm finding myself more and more surprised by the things that I do want to try. But I don't necessarily see it right now. I mean, maybe as like a script writer or like a scene writer because I'm so creative and I can come up with these ideas that are like that sounds insane, and yet I'm sure it's something somebody would watch. I mean, if you've seen any of the Reality Kings and Brazzers scenes, there's some pretty ridiculous ones.
There
but
are.
I mean, and there were some times when I would like laugh my way through the first part of it, and we'd have to cut a million times because it's just funny to me. But I could see myself like potentially doing the writing, but I don't really think I have what it takes to be a director or photographer or anything.
Well, don't sell yourself short. I mean, sorry, just when you mentioned some of those Brazzers scenes there, I mean, your comedic timing is impeccable. That is one thing I have to say. Like, I can't remember what film it was. It was a scene. I think it was like a panty sniffing one or something. You were really funny in that. I mean, it was funny.
Yeah, I have a hard time being serious, which is proven a problem in the past because sometimes they'll ask you to act or say things that are just ridiculous and you just want to laugh so bad, but you're not supposed to. And it's so hard because it's just, oh man, it really is like one of those things that you really just have to kind of like try to get into a character and just go with it.
There's way too much laughter on this porn set. That is, I never thought I'd ever hear that, but I mean, shows what I know, right?
No, it was hard. My Brazzers scene, Billy Visual was shooting it, and me and my co-star Zach Wild, we kept laughing so hard at like just stupidest stuff, and he was getting so mad. He was like, "You guys need to stop, okay? I just want to get this over with."
Oh shit. So, have you had any success with OnlyFans or any of those, like, I guess, kind of social networking type sites?
To an extent. I really hate those sites for a lot of reasons, but I feel like, I know people have great success with them. I know of people personally that make, they make their entire, just all of their income off of them, and they just shoot occasionally just to stay relevant. But I don't think that necessarily works for everyone. For me, I have a problem with it because there will be people, that are like, hey, let's do content, let's trade content. And for me, I struggle with that because the professionalism's kind of lost. When you show up to set, you shoot, everybody goes home. But when you go to do content, it's like you're meeting up with someone and like there's a possibility that they just text you nonstop until you block their number, which has actually happened to me a couple times in the past week. And so it's just irritating for me. Like, I hate working with people off of set sometimes because as nice as people are in the industry, there's also a lot of really crazy people. So not my favorite thing to do, but it works for some people.
Well, that's very insightful. Thank you. I mean, I've heard about it and everything. I was just kind of curious, what professional perspective might be. So thank you. Kind of here in closing. So what do you say to people who say that sex work isn't real work?
Typically, when someone has an objection to sex work, it's just because they're either uneducated in what actually goes into it, or they somehow have some weird religious or moralistic background telling them that it's wrong. So they have like these natural objections to it, and they want to call the money that you make in the industry dirty money. But at the same time, how can you call money clean that you've spent years of your life into, and you had to struggle every single day, and you had to work 40 plus hours a week? Like, how do you call that clean money at that point? You've sold your time, you've sold your soul. It's just, it's just nobody could see it. So what, does that make it better? I don't know. People might disagree with my view on that, but I honestly don't think that, I don't see it as a different kind of work. I mean, if you're willing to sell your time at such a low price, that's a you thing.
No, thank you. That's very powerful. Thank you. So real quickly before we leave here, is there anyone who might be listening to the program you might want to shout out, anything you want to say? If you want to plug any of your social media, please go ahead.
Okay. So you can find me on Twitter at Emily Wright3. Wright is spelled with an R and not a W. Just hi to anyone and everyone. I hope everyone's doing okay during this crazy time. I just hope that everyone keeps in mind that everything ends eventually, and we're going to get through this. And it might be one of those things we look back at and go, wow, that was a weird time, but we'll get through it just like everything else up until this point. So it gets better.
It won't be like this forever. Awesome. All right. Well, Emily, thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough. Really appreciate you being on the show today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. Anytime I get a chance to talk about the industry is like a high point for me, because when I was not involved or anything, there was so many questions that I had, and I had so many preconceived notions that now it just feels good to be able to share like the truths about what actually happens, and it kind of humanize the rest of us, so that when people look at us in society, they know what actually goes on, and not just their weird ideas of someone signing their blood over to like the devil, like here's my soul, because that's not what happens.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for educating us, and happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. I totally didn't even know you knew. That's awesome. Cool.
I got you. I follow you on Twitter. Emily, I really can't thank you enough. That was incredible. I interviewed her right before her birthday, so I'll take this opportunity to wish you a happy belated birthday. Emily is on Instagram at EmilyWright8. She's also on Twitter at EmilyWright3. She did hit me up to share some news right after we finished that interview, though. Here in the near future, Emily's going to be doing some work with Suicide Girls, so congratulations on that. In fact, just today while I was writing up some of the transitions, I saw that Emily just had a Naughty America scene with Paisley Porter and Allura TNT Jensen release pretty recently. Definitely worth checking out. If you're anything like me, you like porn, but you love wrestling. If that's the case, go check out some of Allura Jensen's work with Evolved Fights. This has been the follow-up episode. Hope you've all enjoyed. Big thanks again to all of my guests today. Thank you so much, Jackie, Spidey, Bryson, and Emily. You can reach the podcast through social media, exgirlfriendtattoo@gmail.com, or just leave me a message at 509-713-2217. I'm Austin Larson, and this has been the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast.
Hear the calling. The calling. The calling. The calling. It's all you got me believing. When I hear the sirens call,